Dark Souls 2. It's a masterpiece that not only stands with the rest of the Soulsborne library, but is also the greatest game ever made by FromSoftware. If for some reason you are a fan of any of these games and you haven't played Dark Souls 2, you should absolutely fix that as soon as possible. I mean, just look at this. What other Soulsborne can you just boot up and right from the bat you're swinging like you're Floyd in this Mayweather? Within literally 60 seconds of playing the game, I'm going full-blown Conor McGregor on these dogs over here. This is not going to be a full-blown review or critique of Dark Souls 2, but rather just a short video on why I love this game and why everyone else who doesn't is just wrong. So let's start with the item that everyone always talks about from this game that never came back. The bonfire aesthetic. This is an item that you can use at a bonfire to instantly raise the immediate area up to New Game Plus scaling. This is amazing because if there's an area you want to increase the difficulty of, farm souls in more efficiently, whatever your reason may be, you can literally just scale the difficulty and the reward as you please. Each use of this item will raise an area by 1 New Game Plus scale, and these scaling levels carry into your New Game Plus playthroughs as well, meaning if you use one on an area in New Game, when you come back to it in New Game Plus, it will be scaled up to New Game Plus 2. The only downside to this for some is that it can't be undone, but in my opinion, this is actually a really good approach. It adds extra weight to the decision of using one of them, and it makes it an incredibly meaningful decision for the player whether or not they'll engage with the mechanic throughout their playthrough. This is an item that, for some reason, was never brought back in any other Soulsborne game, and there's a reason that myself and even many of the Dark Souls 2 haters out there want it to return. And now that I've got you sitting there nodding your heads along with the video, let's get controversial. The enemy placements are great. And yes, even in Scholar of the First Sin. Scholar may have greatly increased the amount of enemies present in many areas of the game, but I feel that this only adds to the fun factor of it. Take Hyde's Tower of Flame for example. Yes, there are 3 giant knights in this room, but it feels more manageable because it's hard-coded that the ones on the sides won't become aggressive until the knight in the center of the room has been killed, and even then, when you're fighting both of these guys together, it's just a way to make the encounter more engaging and force the player to make more careful decisions in combat. We've already fought a handful of these giant knights on the way up here and been given the chance to learn their movesets, and now we're being tested. We could, of course, only ever fight one of these guys at a time since they're enough of a threat to warrant it, but I respect FromSoft for having the balls to change things up and skill check the player like this. Now for the bosses. Dark Souls 2 has 42 bosses, and this is even more than Elden Ring. Yes, Elden Ring technically has 100 some bosses, but if you look at how many unique bosses are present in the game, it's only 32. Dark Souls 2 has 41 unique bosses, all with their own models, animations, movesets, and arenas. And while the quality is up and down like any Soulsborne game, there are so many genuinely fun bosses here in Dark Souls 2 for me to say that they're genuinely a highlight of the game for me. I mean, come on, you even get to have an epic rematch against Ornstein from Dark Souls 1, or at least a descendant of him wearing the same armor set but painted black, which is still badass. There's just no way that I can't say that I love the bosses in this game. There's also some really entertaining and goofy stuff present in this game that I won't give too many examples of for the sake of not spoiling things for those who haven't played yet. But that being said, in just the couple hours that I played to record footage for this video, I found a coffin resting along some water that I could climb into. Players who have played some of the newer games like Elden Ring might think they know what's going to happen already, assuming that the coffin will transport me to a new area. But no, I got in the coffin and after a short loading screen, I emerged in the exact same spot, but my character had become a woman, and not a very attractive woman at that, having carried over every single physical trait from being a man, except for now she has boobs and slightly skinnier legs, but that's beyond the point. Another thing that I love about Dark Souls 2 is actually its art and environment design, which I consider to be among the strongest in the series. While I recorded just some of the opening areas, I came across so many really pretty spots throughout my quick romp through them. And of course, anyone who's played Dark Souls 2 for even as much as an hour knows that Majula has to be the most visually appealing hub area we've ever gotten in a Souls game. Combine this with not only just the attention of detail in these areas, but also the sheer visual variety of them. In 3 areas back to back to back, I was in a forest, then a series of castle-like ruins suspended over the ocean, and then moving through underground dungeons approaching a large expansive cavern with a crashed pirate ship. I mean, come on, guys. Later games such as Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring might also have some great variety in their areas, but consider that these are just the areas I moved through while fighting the first 3 of Need I remind you, 42 bosses. That is some seriously impressive variety, and myself and anyone else who has played this game to completion knows that throughout the rest of the game, it only continues to introduce new and exciting environments. Continuing with the really controversial takes, I think Dark Souls 2 has an amazing healing system. I love that we get Estus flasks back from Dark Souls 1, but that they're in much more limited supply this time around, and the fact that they complemented this with life gems, a purchasable or grindable healing item, essentially the Moongrass from Demon Souls, is really good in my opinion. It allows players who are persistent and want the hardcore experience to play through like in Dark Souls 1 using only the Estus they get from bonfires, but also allows newer players trying to get through for the first time to have some additional items to do so with. It also helps a lot for players like me who are just lazy and don't want to run back to the bonfire when they run out of heals. It allows us to keep pushing forward and making progress through the area. I know that a lot of players really didn't like this approach, so much so that it never made a return in the series, but I think that this might be the best one to date. Like I said, the variety offered by this system and the accessibility it allows for newer players is just something that we don't see matched anywhere else in the franchise. And while I'm not going to talk at length about this, Dark Souls 2 was also the first time FromSoft ever allowed players to respec their stats, and it's done in pretty much the exact way that Elden Ring does it. You can find these rare items throughout the game that when you bring them to a certain NPC allow you to respec. So for players that appreciate being able to respec characters in Soulsborne games, you actually have Dark Souls 2 to thank for that. And now the big one, the bombshell that no Soulsborne fan is ready for, the one that will shoot the amount of dislikes on this video straight to the moon. I like adaptability. Now hold on, let me explain myself. The problem with adaptability is that it is not made clear to the player that they can increase the iframes while dodging by increasing this stat. That is a serious flaw to mention. But if it had been clearly communicated, I actually really like it in practice. I like that at the start of the game, my dodges have to be extra precise, and that when I'm leveling my character, I have to make a decision not just between increasing my health or my damage scaling with my weapons, but also the amount of iframes I have while dodging are thrown into the equation. It leads to me being a lot more thoughtful while leveling a character, and the progression of slowly getting more and more iframes the higher I pump the stat starts to make me feel like a god at a certain point in the game. And the only reason that you feel so powerful having so many later on, despite them being about the same as the rest of the series, is that you know what it feels like to not have them to begin with. Alright, after that one, I can't keep it going. Let me get serious for a minute and reveal what's behind the curtain here. This video was a joke between me and my community. In some of my recent videos, we noticed a massive amount of people who were leaving angry comments that clearly didn't even watch the video before voicing why they disliked it. This video was somewhat of a public experiment, as much as I hate that term, to see how many people would still do this if I intentionally tried to bait them into it, while still revealing at the end that it was all just a joke. There are some things that I said in this video that I actually do believe, some that I don't, and some that I do, but I just exaggerated my opinion up to blind fanboy levels. Overall, for those of you that clicked the video for Dark Souls 2, I'm going to give you the most mild take possible, but what I believe to be the best one. If you enjoy Dark Souls 2 and have fun playing it, then that's great. And if you don't enjoy the game, then that's completely valid, because at the end of the day, we all play these games for fun, and whether or not you'll have fun with a game is completely subjective. I personally have fun playing this game overall, and I do enjoy it, just not as much as the other games in the series. But being a 7 out of 10 in a sea of 8s and 9s doesn't mean that you're bad, because you're still a 7. And just because this video was an experiment doesn't mean we still can't have productive discussion about the game like we normally do here on the channel. If you want to comment some things you like or don't like, or agree with, or counter one of the points that I made in the video, feel free to do so. But if you did enjoy the video, I ask that you please show it some love by throwing a like my way. As this was intentionally made from the start to rage bait the most aggressive of Soulsborne fans, it'll probably get disliked by crazy, so if you enjoyed and are willing to throw me a bone, I would really appreciate it. And hey, if you enjoy discussion topics and gaming like this, or various gaming live streams, I upload on here once or twice a week, and I stream on here 7 days a week, so feel free to leave a sub and come back another time. As well as that, if you enjoyed this video at all, then you'll probably enjoy my last one, which is not rage bait, it's completely genuine, so I'll have it linked on screen right here for you to check out.